Well, good morning again. My name's Dan Carlson, and I'm moderating this panel. The panel is on online marketing for artisanal farmers and how to use the platform to reach consumers and to help you develop new markets for your products. And the people we have on the panel have real-life experience with this. So I'll let them introduce themselves. They represent KitsapFresh, VashonFresh, and Local Food Marketplace. But I just want to give you a little background about what some of the motivation for having a panel like this is. And I'll start just by quickly asking you if anyone here has ordered anything online. Good. And I was listening to NPR's Here and Now the other day, and they were covering Walmart's entrance to the online food marketplace. And they're going to compete with Amazon Fresh. They actually are going to have a service where they're going to deliver into people's homes and place stuff into the refrigerator. What they calculate right now is that
Kind of creepy.
4% of food orders are made online. But in 5 years, they estimate there'll be 20%. That's a significant growth that's anticipated. Now, whether or not it's achieved or not is the point. The point is that for many people, online ordering of goods is the way that stuff is purchased. And some of the big boys and big girls, like Amazon and others, are squarely identifying how to use that platform. Where does that place the small organic farmer? And the answer is that there are ways in which you can participate on equal footing with these big players. And you have the opportunity to define a segment that actually is beneficial to you, which is the organic artisanal farmer, and it enables consumers in your community to purchase from you in a new way. So that's the background. We'll hear different examples of how that's done. And I should say, just by way of introduction, and I'll ask the panelists to introduce themselves, that I've been involved in farmland preservation since the 1970s in King County. I live on Vashon Island. I have a small farm. I grow sunflowers for cut flower bouquets and berries and chestnuts and a few other items. And I was on the board of the Vashon Island Growers Association for several years, and during that time promoted or championed this idea and got funding through King Conservation District's Food Systems Grant Program to pilot a program like this 3 years ago. So this is the third year of operation for VashonFresh. But you'll learn from Erin and others that there have been efforts like this that preceded that. In any case, that's how, that's my background on this. And the other thing that I've done in the past 25 or 30 years is teach at the University of Washington. So from a policy perspective, I'm interested in how farmland is protected as well. That's a bit about me, and I'll ask the other panelists to introduce themselves.
My name is Chris Hedgpeth, and I a farmer and co-farmer and co-owner of Forest Garden Farm on Vashon Island. We are a small certified organic farm. We grow mixed vegetables and cut flowers, and we've been selling on VashonFresh online for the last 3 seasons, which are basically as long as we've been a farm. So we've seen it grow as we've grown as a farm, and it's been a reliable marketplace for us as we've kind of grown as a farm. So.
My name is Amy McCann, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Local Food Marketplace, and we're the tech company, although we don't really feel much like a tech company sometimes. We love getting in the weeds with all of you, and that's what our passion is. But we provide the technology for both KitsapFresh as well as VashonFresh and 5 or 6 other online markets that vary in scope and the type of work they do throughout the state of Washington. And I'll tell you a little bit more as we get into our presentation. But thank you.
And my name is Erin Smith. I'm currently the GM of KitsapFresh. I have a homestead in Kitsap, and I will introduce myself better during my PowerPoint. Thanks for being here today.
Great. Thanks so much. So when we first wrote our grant to try and start VashonFresh, we said, well, we're going to hire a web developer and develop a presence on the web that's interactive and allows customers to order. And lo and behold, we did not need to reinvent the wheel, because our first presenter is going to tell you about the platform they have that enables people to access the web quickly.
Thank you for your patience. First, I just wanted to thank you, Dan, and for the Tilth folks for inviting me to be here. It's such an honor. This is our first time. We've been in business now for 10 years, and I can't believe we've not been to Tilth before. This has been just an amazing experience, and really, really enjoyed it. So it's a huge honor to be on this panel, and I'm as probably excited as you are to hear the stories. That's really what motivates us to do the work we do through our company. So you're going to hear a lot about online markets. That's one of the types of businesses that we support, one of quite a few. We work also with farms directly that use our platform for their own sales. We work with food hubs, which these online markets would also be considered a food hub. Food hubs like Puget Sound Food Hub and Farm Stand Local Foods, and we also work with CSAs. So it's a pretty broad scope, but that's what you all do as farmers, so that's what we've chosen to take on as well. I mentioned this a second ago, but we've been around since 2009, and our mission from the very beginning is to provide technology that helps level the playing field for small farmers so that we can relocalize our food system. And we're excited to play the small part that we do in that. We've licensed our software. We have 200 active licenses of our platform out there all around the US and Canada. I'll show you a map here in a second. And they consist of all sorts of different businesses I mentioned earlier, and there are 5,000 farms that log into our system throughout the year. Some of them just sell their blueberries when blueberry season is happening, but throughout the season, that's how many farms log into our software throughout the year and sell product. Simply what we provide is an online storefront, and you're gonna see a couple of examples here in a second with a back-end system. So, which is really what we focus on. It's great to get orders, and it's pretty easy to find nice looking online ordering system out there. There are many of them, but really what's important is not only can you get the orders, but can you actually fulfill them efficiently without causing a bunch of undue stress on the farm. So that's what we focus on, is helping farms and food hubs and online markets make all that happen efficiently with minimal admin work. Of course, because we provide these platforms for the online markets, there's a producer interface as well, which you'll get a glimpse of in a moment. Just in terms of some of the other features, we've talked about the online storefront, the CSA. It's a full customer account management system in the back end for invoices and customer statements and bugging them about paying you and keeping track of your accounts receivable. So it's a really robust system in that way. We have an inventory management system for not only just-in-time inventory, which is how these food hubs and online markets operate, but also for food hubs and farms that have a warehouse or cooler of inventory that they sell out of. So we manage that. And of course, there's automation built in here. So as soon as an order happens, you're going to get a harvest, a pack list, labels to get the product to customers, and certainly invoicing and payment processing. Lots of reports as well. This is an example site. I chose to put one up because I think you'll probably see there the Kitsap and Vashon sites in a little bit, but this is a food hub online market that operates quite similar to them, but they're in New Jersey. And it's dealing with very similar scale farmers. And this is what our storefronts look like. They're branded, of course, as you can see, the Green Grocer Food Hub is in the upper left. They've got the farms, so City Green here is the farm, the products, and of course the units and sizes you can purchase and the ability to add it to your order. There's a lot more that goes into it, but our goal with this storefront is to make it simple for your customers. Most of our customers are after repeat orders. It's great to get that one-off order, but what you really want is that customer that buys from you all the time. And I don't have a screenshot of this, but the checkout process is single-page checkout, so that you've captured where they are, how they like to get their product, how they like to pay, what payment terms you have with them. All of that's captured. They just need to pick their items and confirm their order, and they're done. This is on the producer side. So this is something they can look at online. They also get this automatically via email after ordering closes. So our customers set up order windows. So they've got an open and a close. The close is like, you got to have your order in by that time frame. Order cuts off so that they can do all the harvesting and getting the orders together. And this is what the farm receives. And I think that Chris has a sample of his farms actually that he might share with you guys, but this is a pretend farm one that I have. And at the top, what you're seeing is the harvest piece of it, and it's just a summary of everything that needs to be harvested for that particular week's or day's deliveries. And then the bottom is a breakdown of who bought the items. Okay? This is what each individual farm receives. Yeah. So in the case of the online market, the customer may have placed a single order from a dozen farms. And then hopefully hundreds of other customers have also placed orders. And the farm gets one single list to operate from so that they're not getting inundated with messages and emails. It's like just use one. So that's what they're operating. And they can look at that online at any time. They often receive also sold out messages if a product they've listed is sold out. This is a map of most of our customers. We have some in Hawaii as well that aren't captured. I couldn't get them all into the same screenshot here, but all those blue little placeholders represent licensees of our product. So. Just to give you guys an idea also of just what runs through our platform. So when we started tracking this, I think about 5 years ago in our current system, since then it's been nearly $150 million in sales through the platform. So it's still, in the grand scheme, kind of a drop in the bucket, but it's real money for the customers that use our platform. That's in like roughly 4 or 5 years time frame. Yeah. And every year it about doubles. So, and currently I mentioned 5,000 producers in the platform. I counted them yesterday. Was there a question?
Yes.
I would just like to say we are video and audio recording.
Okay.
So if anyone from the crowd has something to say, we really are going to come with you with this microphone.
Oh.
So just speak it into the microphone.
Okay. Thank you for the reminder, Terry. I appreciate that. I tend to just answer questions, so I'll try to be more mindful of that. Yes, and about 292, well, not about, I counted them yesterday, 292 farms sell through our platform in Washington, so across all these different platforms. Our customers, we ask this frequently, try to get a measurement on like what do you get out of using this system? What are the benefits? And it ranges by scale, of course. They cite the 16 to 32 hours of a median range of numbers of hours per week that's saved in admin time, in which they then translate into doing more sales or more farming or things other than doing paperwork, basically. And we also measure our customer sales increases. And after implementation, our customers experience on average a 45% sales increase between 1 and 3 years, and it depends a little bit on their implementation and what they, how their trajectory looks at that very moment. I'm going to wrap up with just a couple of quotes. This is a farm that uses our software there in the Pioneer Valley of Massachusetts. They started using our software, I think they were, $100,000 or $200,000 a year in sales, and it's really made a huge difference for them. It saves Danya and her partner 15 hours a week, which has enabled them to grow considerably. Kitchen Garden Farm, another farm in the east as well, their big thing was wanting to present their farm on an even footing with the other distributors that their restaurant and grocery store buyers and co-op buyers, and they feel like it really increases their professionalism. It's an easy way for their customers to see what they have, make orders, adjust orders, etc. And then last but not least is this Food Hub quote about the amount of time and energy. Okay, I'm going to turn this over now to Erin.
Thanks a lot, Amy. So now you know that there is a platform that can be utilized to do online sales. How has it actually been used in practice? Here are 2 examples. Erin will talk about KitsapFresh.
Thank you. Excuse me. So happy to be here today. I'm really thrilled for this opportunity. I want to thank the Tilth organizers for putting this conference together, excuse me, and everyone else for participating. I'm super stoked about online farmers markets and have dedicated my last 5 years to this one, KitsapFresh. My email's up there. If you want to ask me any questions, shoot me an email. Happy to help you get yours up and running. Okay, so I was a raft guide for a long time, which set me up perfectly for homesteading because you work long hours in inclement weather. And so that was an excellent starting place for me. I also was a teacher for 10 years, so I understand how to be a good cog in an administrative system to make sure everything goes well. I also have about 5 years of experience in government as a lobbyist, a session aide for state lawmakers. So that helped me understand how to navigate the regulatory system that you'd have to get something like this up and running. We do have a homestead, my wife and I, that's the picture we're missing, where we keep a market garden, we have a laying flock of chickens, we also have a dairy herd and a sheep flock, an orchard, a berry patch, and a market garden. Pretty busy homestead, but we don't necessarily grow food on purpose to sell. We're not like a farm, but we do have surplus of things that we do like to sell online. I fell into farming kind of backwards as a caretaker for a small market garden and a really small laying flock of 5 birds. And there was an organization called the Fresh Food Revolution, which is a licensee of local food marketplace. And that's where we first sold product as homestead farmers, and I got hooked right away. When we lost the opportunity to be to be caretakers, we immediately looked for land in North Kitsap, where I was from, and we found a nice old homestead to turn back into a farm. And as soon as I got there, the epiphany was, we need to start a fresh food revolution in North Kitsap. It's a perfect complement to farmers markets. Not everyone can go to a farmer's market. It's a great fit for small farms because you don't have to fill up a whole market booth at a traditional farmer's market. If you just have a few things, as long as it's worth driving to the aggregation location, it's worth it for you to participate. It's perfect for homesteaders, as I was just saying. I don't necessarily grow food on purpose to sell, but I always have surplus of things, and I do want to sell things when I have too much of something. I was just saying a perfect complement to farmers markets. Farmers markets are usually once a week, so you can make your online farmers market for an opposite day, depending on what neighborhood you guys are in. A lot of times farmers have to drive a couple hours to get to the weekday farmers market. That's not true everywhere, but of course there's inclement weather. So, and other people are just too busy to go to farmers markets every week. They have busy lives, they have kids in soccer, and they like to go camping, whatever it is. We've got to meet everybody where they're going to be doing their shopping. KitsapFresh is a farmers cooperative. So all the farmers who are members are also part owners, which is a bit unique. Is that the best way for you to get going? I don't know. There's other options. Perhaps the local government could help you. Probably not. Existing cooperatives might be able to help you. Farmers markets or an association of farmers markets. And of course, there's maybe you even have a nonprofit in your area that's dedicated, has a mission statement to local food or the economy or something. You might be able to get them to help you get started. If you need to make your own co-op, the first steps are a steering committee, which usually turns into your first board of directors. Try to include local food advocates, not just farmers. They'll have access to resources you don't know about. You'll need articles of incorporation. You'll need bylaws, producer guidelines, and terms of service. These are the basic fundamental documents to get going. I actually have templates of all these and can email them to you if you wish. So get you started easy if we can. Those are the first steps. These are the business strategies that KitsapFresh utilized for the first 5 years. And we'll show you some slides of that success. But here's the strategies. We're using digital aggregation, which I think we're understanding now after Amy's presentation of their system. We're letting the internet and interwebs and computers figure out where it goes and assign it to people and keep track of the prices and invoices and all that. One of the advantages of this model is it's easy to add food producers like bakers, micro-roasted coffees, smokehouse. We have all those folks on board, chocolatier. So you don't have to just have farms. The more you're diverse, the more customers you'll attract. 100% source identified. If you do order something from KitsapFresh, it comes from that farm or that food producer, and it's labeled, you know where it came from. You can look at those farming practices and make an educated choice as a consumer. Not all of our farms are organic, but most of them are, and it is listed in the Meet Your Producer page, so you know how everyone's production practices are like. We do utilize self-serve pickup locations. That's worked fine for 5 years, which is pretty amazing, actually. Not too many items get grabbed by the wrong person or stolen. But we can't be manning these booths. It's just too much effort to get volunteers or too many man hours. You lose your profit. So you got to figure out a way to make it self-serve. And one huge advantage of not being an outdoor farmer's market is we can go all year. So 50 weeks a year. I know there are some markets that go all year, but most don't. So that's a brilliant extra piece. In fact, right now, KitsapFresh is adding producers because the farmer market season's ending, but they still have products. So not many farmers markets actually add farmers in October and November, right? That's what we do. Keep your cost as low as possible by primarily existing online. No warehouse, none of that, right? You get together for a few hours and you aggregate the orders on order day, on distribution day, and you get it out to people. So keep your costs as low as possible. There is a surcharge. KitsapFresh has to charge something. We have overhead, obviously, the software, mostly it's employees. But there are other costs too. So we charge a super low 15%. Anybody who knows how to run a business knows that's a crazy low margin. And that's because we put this together for the farmers. Remember, it's farmer owned. We actually started at just 10%, which is totally insane. Went to 13, and just this year went to 15. But that maximizes the return for the farmers, so farmers will want to join you, right? They don't want, if you charge too much as a margin, they're not going to be able to join. Another piece of that is you have to train your farmers when they first come on board and remind them that they need to adjust their prices down to account for your surcharge. Customers don't want to pay $3.39 for a bunch of kale when they bought that same bunch from that same farm on Saturday for $3, right? So you just got to talk your farmers into dropping it. We don't price fix. Farmers can list whatever price they want, but ultimately the success of KitsapFresh is definitely dependent on farmers dropping their prices a little bit. And I know that on, say, meat or eggs, where you have fixed cost of feed and stuff, it might be harder. But there's definitely an equilibrium price that we can find. Then we don't have membership fees for consumers. We used to. The week we dropped it, we doubled our sales. We still collect the same amount of money, actually more, with a low delivery fee. These are going to self-serve pickup locations, so you can't charge $10 or something like you might for home delivery, but we still charge $2, 100 orders a week, adds right up. So that's the overview of how we got to where we are now. Here's our blue dots represent our farmer members and our food producers. The red shopping cart bag is our self-serve pickup locations. And the magenta diamond there toward the top center is our warehouse. We actually now, this last month, moved into our first actual permanent warehouse facility, which is very rewarding. Having a single aggregation location is key. It does require all the farmers to bring their product to you. We're up to about average orders of this year, about 90 in each order period. I think our record's 120 for a single order period. And a really high average order of $50, I actually just calculated last period's, is $55. So if you were to present that at a business meeting, they'd be pretty impressed. Usually $40 is a goal, so that's pretty good numbers. We need to get him a mic.
Where is your physical aggregation location?
So it's the magenta colored diamond there. I don't have a pointer. It's right below one of the red circles, top center. You got it. We didn't always have that location. We had borrowed spaces. We're only there for 3 hours to sort and aggregate. So people, businesses, partners were able to let us use the space that they had. Actually, the first spot was a dining hall in a brewery, in a brew pub. But it worked fine for 2.5 years. So rely on your community as well to get this thing up and running. Some milestones. KitsapFresh, we were first incorporated in 2015, April. First sales were in July. We were awarded a local food promotion grant from the USDA via the Washington State University Extension Office. Laura Reiser was our grant administrator. She was the person in charge of community development for Kitsap. That was pretty key, 2 years of funding. I don't think it's necessary, but it was really great. Most important thing we got out of that was salary for the manager. Before that, we didn't have a paid manager. We moved into a new larger aggregation space that was still borrowed in 2017, and just literally moved into the warehouse last month. You could see in 2015 we had pretty low sales. That was only half a year. It was cash only, one location. Obviously, you don't start with 10 pickup locations your first year. But we've had basically 40% growth every year, and I anticipate to continue 40% growth for the next decade. Here's this year's sales up to October. 61% of that is root crops, vegetables, and meat. So that's pretty outstanding, I think. And then the rest of those are those auxiliary things that the customers love, baked goods. The fruit is pretty high there. I think it's now about 14. And about half of that fruit sale is actually Eastern Washington fruit. We're trucking in fruit that our farmers in Kitsap aren't going to be able to grow well. Peaches, pears, cherries, apricots, and frankly, even apples and pears, because it's just so much easier to grow those things in Eastern Washington. You get so much higher quality product than even the most dedicated orchardist in the west side. So I try not to compete with our member owners, but we do buy in bulk, and it's a nice little profit, actually, and the consumers love it. It's more product in your marketplace. It attracts more people. So about half of those fruit sales are out of Kitsap County. Kitsap County is great for growing berries, though. We're never going to truck in berries, right? Not going to happen. Strawberries, raspberries, those things grow great in Kitsap. We're not going to be trucking those things in. We do have formal buying agreement the board passed when we started to buy stuff to make sure we don't ever compete with our farmers. Kitsap, one reason it's working so well is Kitsap is a boom town. Average income, $62,000. Bainbridge Island, it's basically like a gated community. They're at $100,000, which is totally insane. We only have one pickup location there, and we didn't open it up until this year. So huge potential growth for KitsapFresh and all farmers on Bainbridge Island, actually. They're really into their local food. Lots of people commute to Seattle from Kitsap, and even more people work at our Navy bases. We have 4 giant Navy bases, 30,000 employees. That doesn't include all the government contractors, too. So we got people. That's one reason it's been successful. We're still just scratching the surface, though. 250,000 people live in Kitsap, and we only have 100 orders a week, right? So there is super giant growth potential. We have 3,000 people who are registered users, so they've taken the effort to give us their email and fill out an application and now fill out the information when they apply. And then they get an email once a week, right? So they get a consumer newsletter once a week, and hopefully someday they get prompted to order from us. I feel like I missed a slide. Nope. One of the things that helped us move from not having a warehouse to actually having a warehouse, I had this excellent opportunity to take a proper financial training. It was a boot camp specifically designed for food hubs. It was put on by the Wall Center and the Food Finance Institute. Who knew that existed? Food Finance Institute. I didn't. I was glad they do, though. Tara Johnson from Organic Whey Protein. She was the first organic whey producer in America, and she financed her whole operation and knows how to talk about finances and led the whole 4-day session, which I traveled to Austin, Texas for. The training was free, and it was transformative for me. I went from being a manager who could take care of details to someone who could talk to a banker and talk him into a loan. So I understood things like profit in use and how to project sales and finances and make data sheets, and learned all that in 4 days. Really great class. They do it once a year, so if you want to find out about that, you can just contact them. I'm sure they'll be happy to get you in on it. So here's our warehouse now. Super excited to have this space. 1,800 square feet. I don't really know how we did it without it, honestly. I've only been there for 4 weeks. But tables, all those tables had to get taken up and down every week and put in a corner of a room. Now we just leave them out. And we have shelves for products that we never had before. We have extended hours for dropping off the food. That's always been a constraint for our farmers. We only have an hour-and-a-half drop-off window. Well, once I get this up and running and I get some cold storage in there, they can drop off all day Tuesday, not just for an hour and a half on Wednesday. And that should really help us attract some new farmers, I hope. Because we have to add about 10 to 12 farmers every year if we're going to grow the 40% I want to. The whole point of KitsapFresh is to grow farmers. The best way to conserve farmland is to incentivize its use as farmland. Conservation easements are great and stuff, but the best way to save farmland is to make it so someone can make money on it. Then we can save farmland and rural views that we all love. And we do have a board of directors. I would be remiss not to mention them. My wife, Ronnie, is the president right now, and she does a lot of volunteer work for KitsapFresh. She's also an RN, and there's other folks involved. Pretty exciting group. It's actually a full board. Never had a full board before. That's nice. And then one more slide, just my contact info. If you want any information from me, please write down that email. I'm happy to provide it. Like I said, I have templates for the founding documents. If you do want to become a cooperative, go that way. And I'm happy to give you a couple hours of consulting if you're a Tilth member.
Pretty nice. Yeah, if there are specific questions for Erin at this point, we'll take a few and then move on.
Thanks for sharing. I'm curious.
Who are you?
Hi, I'm Sarah Sutherland. I work at Sustainable Connections up in Bellingham, and we support local farms through local food promotion and business-to-business connections. I'm curious how many staff you have and how the sales support paying for all of your costs, or if there's outside grant funding, just kind of how that financial pieces pan out.
I'm the only part-time employee. We do have drivers who help sort and drive, but I do all the managing and the marketing and all that. Actually, we just hired a marketer, about a month ago. Somebody who was actually involved in the board when we first started, who was a Navy dependent, went to Hawaii, and now is back. Anyway, finances. Well, we got the original grant, but that all is, of course, dried up long ago. That was a 2-year grant. That was like, 2-3 years ago that dried up. And so we have enough money in the bank, and we charge enough on this surcharge and the $2 delivery fee that our cash flow is good. We have enough money to buy things like the apples. We also do foraged mushrooms. We're making a nice little profit on mushrooms. And value added, I can't believe how much you can make on value added. So we're actually buying pre-made pastas, but all from local producers, pickles, all these kind of things. So we're nice margins on those. We only get a 15% margin on our member sales, but when we sell the pickles or whatever, these various value added items, that's 50% usually. So that's a nice margin. That's how we'll pay for the warehouse.
You're buying those at wholesale
by the case. But they look like they're members to our consumers. They have a farmer member page. You click on it, you can read about them as a pasta maker or a pickler or whatever it is they're making. But we did get a loan from Craft 3, which is a community development bank up in Port Angeles that has a mission of local food. Craft 3, not related to Kraft, the food. It's CRAF 3, Craft 3. We did get a loan through them. It wouldn't have been possible without that boot camp I went through. But they do give technical assistance, so if you're close, they can help you figure it out the rest of the way. But that's going to pay for this winter, basically. We're going to definitely have more costs with the warehouse and the business loan during this winter. So we'll watch our bank account go down until March when sales pick up again, because it is super hyper seasonal. But by the end of next summer, at least my projections show us easily paying for next winter without any more loans. And then you make a couple money and then hopefully do more for the co-op. Someday I'd like to see KitsapFresh have a food preservation kitchen for its members. We always have way too many berries or cucumbers all at once, right? You got to turn that into value added. Right now, most of our farmers can't do that. Or they do have to do it, they have to pay too much for a commercial kitchen. So hopefully we can do something like that in the future once we continue to find how to make money and grow the business.
My name is Nikki Johansson, and we operate a farm in Kitsap County, and we are members of KitsapFresh. There's no competition when we have that market span and that opportunity to develop that market. I don't feel there's any competition between my farm and another farm who's selling the same product. The consumer has the opportunity to make a choice, and that makes us all happy. Everybody grows from the benefit of KitsapFresh, every farmer in our county, because this online marketing thing is going to do only anything but grow. And that's all I got to say. It's a great staff. It's a great opportunity for us. We in the past have done 3 markets in a season. And the work to market, if anybody does a market, how many people do markets? Well, you know that feeling that you have after market is over. You need a good rest. I don't have that feeling once we deliver and get our products to KitsapFresh.
Yeah.
They do all the rest of it for us. I think it's the best thing since, sliced bread?
Yeah, we just asked the farmer to bring quality product on time, bagged and tagged. You could put more than one item in a bag, that's fine. Sometimes they bring one produce bag with 5 items in it. As long as the labels are clear, that's fine with us. We do have to have the labeling system. Some farmers resist that, but when you're sorting 120 orders from 50 farms in an hour and a half, you gotta have labels. It's just how it is. Thanks, Nikki.
So quality,
Thank you.
Yeah, the backbone is the local marketplace. Amazing. Makes it so easy for me to administer this stuff. I hit print.
so it's all,
KitsapFresh figures in your figures that you have?
Yeah, yeah. All
talk
of our
about
customers
quality
are.
control just for a moment. The farmers have their name on it, so you'd think that would be adequate to assure quality control. Is it?
Mostly. I actually have a couple notorious farms who bring product that gets thumbs down. I think they bring market food, I think they save their food that didn't sell from Saturday market and sell it on Wednesday. What happens with adjustments, there is a whole elaborate system for adjustments. With so many small independent farms and so many orders, items are going to get forgotten, not brought, slugs eat them, frost happens after you. This is the other thing, it's awesome. It's sold before you buy it. It's sold before you pick it, right? So you don't pick anything and then wonder if it's going to get purchased. It's already been purchased. The amount of time, what I wanted to say, Nikki's point, the amount of time we save you from standing at a farmer's market is insane, right? You don't have to stand at a farmer's market for 5 hours. You don't have to set up your booth for an hour before that and take it down for an hour after that. You're done. You show up, drop it off, drive away. That's all you got to do. So it's brilliant in that way for farmers. Tons of time saving for a farmer.
Okay, yeah.
So I'll just very quickly introduce VashonFresh, and then Chris can carry on from there and talk to you what it's like to actually participate in it and sell on it. So I was on the board of VIGA, the Vashon Island Growers Association, several years ago, and it's a nonprofit. It operates the Saturday Farmers Market, the physical market in the center of town. Vashon is an island. It's got a population of about 11,500 people. Viga's been around for about 20-something years. Its mission is to promote farming, access to healthy food, and a sustainable agricultural economy on Vashon Island through education, advocacy, and a vibrant farmers market. And so that's Erin's point. If you have a nonprofit around that can initiate something like an online market, that's one option. And we applied, in our case, to King Conservation District 3 years ago. They started a food systems grant program, and we were awarded a startup grant. I think it was $24,000, something like that. And with that, we hired part-time staff. Similar story to you, Erin. However, some of the basics were a little different, and so I'll just introduce them to you. One is that our margin was 25%, 15% paid by the farmer and 10% by the consumer. We didn't do it the first year, but this year, the third, delivery of orders that are $25 or more is free, and it's to home. There is a central pickup point as well, but most people prefer to have home delivery. Farmers also benefit from having stuff picked up at their farm. So you don't have to, you have a choice. As a farmer, I can take my stuff and take it to the aggregation facility on Wednesdays before noon, or I can have it picked up Wednesday mornings. So in terms of time saving, that's pretty nice. The number of, so the population, I've told you, the number of customers, the highest point would be like 90 customers in a given week.
That's good.
Often it's like 50. Proportionally to the population in Kitsap, actually, it was a higher proportion of people participating. But there are concerns, and we can talk about some of those. I don't only want this to be about, oh, how wonderful this all is, because it is wonderful and the potential is wonderful, but there are a lot of problems with it too. We want to understand what they are, and you should understand them too as you get into it. So one of the thoughts is that on our surveys of commuters, because we're a commuter island largely, like 90% of the respondents say buying local and organic food is really important to me. And then we ask them if they've ever heard of VashonFresh. No. Do you order from them? No. Why not? Never heard of it. So getting the word out, even in a small community, is a challenge. Anyway, having said that, sales the first year hit the target, $13,000. And we doubled it the next year to $26,000. Those were our targets. The target was again to double it this year, and we didn't. We flatlined it, about $26,000. Why? And a lot had to do with marketing. I noticed you hired a marketer, and our marketing was insufficient this third year. So lessons to be learned. That's an overview. Chris, did I miss something about how it works?
No, I think that's great.
Okay, so with that, Chris, tell us about your experience with Forest Garden Farm and how that fits into your business model and what worked and didn't work for you.
Okay. So I would like to just talk to you guys about our experience as a small farm, an emerging farm. That's the word I'm using because we started about 3 or 4 years ago, and we've tried to grow at a manageable rate. We started probably with about a 1/4 acre, and at this point in time, we're growing on about 3/4 of an acre. And this is the crew here. Most of it. We had a little bit of extra help this year. Our farming practices, I'll give you a little overview. We're very small scale, intensive organic. We have just under an acre cultivated and 20 acres in forest, and we like to do human scale work. So we build permanent beds, and after we build them, we try not to till them anymore. We try to take care of them and keep them healthy and getting more productive and more fertility into the beds each year, using regenerative practices like cover cropping and mulching. So there's Lisa. That's my wife, and the co-owner and co-farmer. And we had goals this year to keep growing at a measured pace, something that we could manage. And in these beginning years of our farm, we enjoyed having that extra marketplace that we knew was going to be there, the online market. It encouraged us to try and grow a higher volume because we knew that we'd have more places to try and sell. And so we did it again this year. We tried to go up, kind of taking quarter-acre chunks at a time, and we were just trying to push and test our markets. Another goal of ours is to sell as close to our farm as possible. We sell on island, and continue to enhance the fertility and health of our soil is basically our number one goal as farmers, besides making a living. So this is a list of our current markets, and probably looks familiar to many of the small farmers out there. Our Saturday market is a great market. It goes from April till the beginning of December, and it has been built over the years by many dedicated farmers, and we appreciate and really view our local food economy as a collaborative effort, and the farmers market is where a lot of it happens. We have a farm stand as well, and we sell to some local restaurants, florists, and now we sell on VashonFresh, and sometimes to the grocery store if we have to. Talking about the value of a reliable midweek market, and the big value for us came, many of our crops that we're growing, cherry tomatoes, cucumbers, they need to be harvested 2 to 3 times a week, and you need to have a regular schedule, or else things get out of hand. The cucumbers, some days it had to be the next day, because they were growing so fast. So we have one farmer's market on Saturday. You can't pick everything on Friday and sell it all at the farmer's market. There are things that need to be picked on Tuesday, and having a market that occurs 3 to 4 days after your big farmer's market really balances your weekly harvest schedule. So that was big for us. And I would like to just kind of draw some comparisons and contrasts to a farmer's market. The online market is weekly. It's reliable, so people, once you have a customer that's going there, you have the opportunity to establish repeat customers, and we saw that happen a lot this year. If we were reliable and consistent, they would be reliable and consistent, just like a farmer's market. And the other thing is it's many small orders, but it aggregates into one big sale. And so, like you said, at the end of the farmer's market day, you're worn out, but you feel good because it was a big day. Like a good market is a big day, and we need more big days in the week, to just keep our spirits up. And so if you have another one of those on Wednesday, hey, you're recharged. You're like, this is great. For sort of context of where it lands in the numbers, we were generally getting about a half to 2/3 size sales in our online midweek market, half to 2/3 of our Saturday market sales. And our size farm, we're we're generally going for $1,000 at the farmer's market. That's a good day. We'd love to keep growing and doing more, but that's a good day. So, and I'm gonna give you guys I'm just gonna hand around a real list of a pick list for 1 week, so you can see kind of what it looks like when you have an online marketplace and lots of people make orders. Probably I'd say 40 people ordered on this week in early August, and you can see what the pick list looks like. I'll just hand it around. Because for me, it's nice to see the real thing that you're going to be dealing with. So, and on that note, I also, to go with that pick list, I printed out some of the labels that the system is really user-friendly, and you get these Avery labels, and you got your pick list, and then you have your labeling printout, and it basically breaks them all down to every single thing that somebody bought. Somebody bought, a bag of salad. There's a label for it with their name and your farm name and how many they got. So you can check these out and just see what you're dealing with. This really was a game changer for our packaging. It just sped it up a lot. So. Okay, like a farmer's market, but different. As Erin mentioned, you're harvesting to order, and I really like this about the online market. You're not harvesting hoping that you sell it. And with the farmer's market, you work really hard to home in on the amounts that you're going to bring each week. What you're guessing, what are we going to be able to sell? And I don't like bringing things home from the farmer's market, and sometimes we do, it's inevitable. But the other thing that can happen too is that I can bring 40 bunches of carrots to my market. My market opens at 10, and I can be sold out by 11. And that's also another, difficult feeling, because great, I sold all my carrots, but I missed an opportunity to sell more. And if you are online, you are checking and seeing what's selling throughout your selling period. And if one product is selling well, you just add some more if you have it in the field. It's very flexible in that way, and I really like that aspect of it. Time saved, we've talked about. You're not standing at the market. Your sales are happening without you present. They're out in the ether. So it's nice to have that working for you. There's no limit on the space if you want to put a lot of different things. We have tables at our market. They're 8 foot by 4 foot. That's how much space I have to fill up. And sometimes it's hard to fit everything on that. So the other side of it, there's more time spent at home or at the farm packaging and labeling orders, because at the farmer's market, it's often you're just sending them out, bunches and cartons of things, but we got to package everything up so it gets to them in really good condition. I also found it to be a great intro to do-it-yourself online marketing, because you don't really need computer skills to make your little storefront. It's very user-friendly, and but you still have the freedom to express your own aesthetic and show things the way you want them to be seen. Another aspect that I really enjoy about this is the flexibility of the program, or the flexibility of having that marketplace sitting there that I can access and update anywhere, especially when I'm walking through the farm, because we are on a small scale, and I like to keep really close track of what what's ready, what's coming up, and if I have my phone and I'm estimating how many cherry tomatoes I've got, I can just plug it right into the phone, and it's on, it's for sale. So I like that, and I like being able to follow keep track of what is selling. Our market is open from Sunday till Tuesday at noon, and so on Monday I can take a look and see how things are going. I can make adjustments. I've also found it to be a great test market for new or uncommon products. Some of you probably recognize this beautiful green. It's French purslane, and we started growing it this year. So we decided, well, let's put it out online, and got some good response. Got some good response at the farmers market too. We love growing hot peppers, but our farmers market people don't buy them at our farmers market, and I don't know why. But I put them online, and it's a different clientele, and they bought them up. Iceland poppies were another one where you could sell a lot of them. Another thing that's not mentioned here is at a certain point in the season, sometimes a product is kind of played out at a certain market. Towards the end of the season, or end of the summer, I should say, kale was not so popular at our farmers market anymore. I think everybody just had too many other options. And so I started just putting a lot more online, and it just sold out. So you have a different clientele, you have different customers that are coming to see what's there. So really thought that was valuable. And I wanted to share one kind of even more detailed example. Our cherry tomato production was good this year. A bumper crop for us, which is probably 1,500 pounds. So we, let me try and figure out where I am. We got to a point where our current retail markets got saturated. So our farmers market, our farm stand, they were not, we knew how much was going to sell, and there wasn't any more. So then it's online, and we also get basically a retail price for the online. And this helps forestall the point where I need to go to my grocery store and say, look, I've got these, sell them for me, because I don't have anywhere else to. So it helped that, because we sold 180 pounds online, and we got a retail price. And you can see the difference between wholesale and retail. That I don't know if that's consistent for you guys, but it's what it is around our neck of the woods. So that 180 pounds, I was going to sell it anyway somewhere. I was going to pick it anyway. It was there, but it just made $450 more for the farm because it sold online. It sold directly to a customer. They paid a premium price to it, and the farmer got more of the proceeds, and that, I think, is how it should work. I think that's about it for me.
That's great, and I believe Amy made it live, but if you have a device either now or later, you can go to VashonFresh.com and just take a look at what the marketplace looks like. And you probably have...
Yeah, KitsapFresh.org is open too. Open all weekend till Monday midnight. I actually had a couple things I forgot to mention. Could I throw them in here? Adjustments. I mentioned that there's things don't come. Sometimes farmers don't bring the product that they thought they'd have. They're called adjustments. They're not a big deal as long as I get to know what they are. The labels are great because you didn't put the label on it, right? You didn't put the label on the bunch of kale that you didn't, that the slugs ate or whatever. So you know what you didn't bring. You just hand me the labels, and I can go to the computer later that day and adjust the invoice, take the thing that the consumer didn't get and take it off the invoice. And then we don't charge until a day and a half after the consumer gets it. We don't charge them online with a credit card. That way they have a day and a half to tell me about a product that was subpar or missing that I didn't catch during our aggregation system, or maybe it was grabbed. The most common thing is someone grabs the wrong dozen eggs out of the coolers from a different farm. They may have a slightly different price point. Those are all adjustments you can make before you charge the cards, and so then you don't have to deal with refunds through the credit card system. And of course, the system can do in-store credits too. So when they occasionally do make a mistake and I charge something for something they didn't get, I can give them an in-store credit. So that's adjustments. We do have large farms. We talked about the glory of it being great for small farms, but we do have 2 farms that bring over $1,000 of product every week, and they're able to deal with our label and bagging rules just fine. So it's not, it's scalable is the point of that comment. We give checks to our farmers once a week. They come a week later. You get it in the mail. We got some great marketing. One of our board director folks is good with words and got a press release out, and it was in the local Sun, the Kitsap Sun, which is a pretty big newspaper on the west side. And the King 5 saw it and came over and did a 3-minute piece on us, which was basically all of our marketing for the year. That happened in June, and we were golden, basically. We dropped about 20 orders a week, and that was all the marketing we needed. So sometimes luck plays a role in success, too. The labels, KitsapFresh actually buys the labels in huge bulk quantities and just gives them to the farmers because I want them to use them. You come and pick up 10 every week if you want them. I don't care. I have postcards and business cards up here. I think that's all I have that I forgot.
Oh, that's great. I wanted to add a couple of things about VashonFresh as well. And among them was that we operate 20 weeks a year, which is different. So there's a middle of June till middle of October time frame. We got 2 more grants to underwrite the work, one from the Bullitt Foundation and a return grant from King Conservation District's Food Systems Grant, which was, this may be arcane, I don't think it is actually. A lot of grantors fund once and somehow expect your life to continue on. We convinced them, and not alone, but others did, that really it was necessary to have longer-term funding at a reduced amount annually, and they bought that. So we got 2 more years of funding at a sliding scale downward as we were able to sustain our operation, or theoretically were able to sustain our operation. And I also should mention that there were early fears about introducing VashonFresh amongst the farmers who viewed the world as a limited pie and the physical farmers market as the way they were going to make money, and that they saw an online market as being competition. And that actually dissipated after the first year, because what farmers saw was that there were more farmers entering. The barrier to entrance is so low using the online market that if you're very small or you're thinking of starting to farm, you can test it out and do it. And lo and behold, some of those early testers ended up going to the farmer's market, increasing the vibrancy of the farmer's market, the physical one.
Definitely a pattern we've seen in Kitsap. Well, entering incubator stage at KitsapFresh, move on to the bigger market, and still list with KitsapFresh, hopefully.
Yeah. There's one other factor I found as a farmer is that the reporting system that LFM has enables you to really confirm your hunch about what's selling and what isn't. I mean, it's very easy for me to print out a report. This is what sold the most during a growing year. This is what sold the most during a given time period. And if I'm really thoughtful about what I want to grow that's going to earn the most money, I know what to do. If I want to grow things because I'm interested in growing them and I think it's a unique product or whatever, fine, I can do it. But the relationship between sales and profit and timing and whatever is readily apparent through this software, which is a real plus for farms, I think.
So, Chris showed you mailing labels, and he showed you a pick list, but there's also a, what do you call it?
Packing list?
Packing list.
Yeah.
And we use that, and we tape it on a table so we can, it lists how many cauliflower or carrot bundles or herbs And the name is on that, so you can take those labels to that area. So that just helps us tremendously in packaging everything up. It's really slick. Thank you.
Testimony.
I guess I was
I know,
asking,
I like
I was going to ask a similar question of Dan and Chris about just what is the farmer experience of this? Is it basically on a early Wednesday morning, you're just grabbing a bunch of tomatoes, dumping them into produce bags, and then trying to get those mailing labels to stick to the produce bags, or what? How is that experience?
Well, as you saw, we have a pretty good size order every Wednesday, so it would take a couple hours, but we would pick either Tuesday or Wednesday morning, depending on the product, and you just need to have kind of your system. We would put the labels on the bags first. We found that to be a lot easier than putting them on after they were full. So it's just kind of, those little things that you work out in your process, but it's certainly the way that it's set up with the labels, with the packing list, which I didn't print out because it was like 10 pages or something, because it's very detailed. But it's set up to really streamline your packing. So we have a room that we basically put all the labels on the bags. We separate them out by the product because that's how we package, not by the customer. So, and then we fill the bags according to the labels. And if we picked everything that we needed, then there's nothing left at the end of the day. You can double check it on the packing list. So that's a nice way to do it. But if you have all your labels sitting there and you've peeled them all off one at a time, that's your order. So it's a double check that you didn't miss anything, and that's really nice.
I would say weather is a factor that can make life more difficult on that Wednesday morning. So if I'm picking a bouquet of flowers and it's raining, that's a problem. Or berries are really sensitive, so you don't want to pick those on Tuesday, even though you know you have an order for it. Anyway.
Yeah, there are definitely times when you run out there in the field and grab a few last things, but you get into just like the farmer's market, when you have your harvest schedule on Friday or whenever your farmer's market is the day before, you develop that system. It's just that it all goes away in the truck, and then you have the rest of your day to do what you need to do. So
I was curious, Amy, have you worked with larger regions that have a food hub operating already and have added an online farmers market? And do you have any anecdotes from that? Does it help the food hub? Does it, do they raise the tide for each other? Or just curious what examples you might have of that.
Who's asking the question?
My name is Marissa from Sustainable Connections in Bellingham.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's as many different types of food hubs as there are food hubs. So it's there's all sorts of them, but we definitely see a lot of co-marketing. Sometimes a food hub offers as a secondary, if you're talking about a food hub that does wholesale sales to like restaurants and grocery stores, which we support a lot of those. Many of them have a secondary consumer-driven. Sometimes it's a totally different brand. Sometimes it's the same brand. It varies considerably, but some of our largest food hubs have a direct-to-consumer sales channel that they operate. But I'm not sure if that was your direct question or if it were a separate entity. I mean, they're very, if you're talking about a food hub that's selling to wholesale versus a direct-to-consumer one, they're very different sales channels. So I don't think that they compete with each other. I think particularly if it's happening within the same entity, it's a great way to bring on smaller farms and help them level up their, all their gap stuff that you often have to have if you're selling to the large institutions. And it gives them an introduction to what it's like to fulfill a wholesale type order, but on a retail level. So, yeah, I don't think that those are things that are mutually exclusive at all, and it's certainly not what we see within our sort of market base. So,
two quick questions. One, for the farmers who work with these platforms, if you have sort of set in your mind an amount per week that you want to sell on the platform that makes it worthwhile. I know I do that for physical markets, so I was just kind of curious for this model. And then my other question, depending on who's doing the packing, it looks like it's different between Vashon and Kitsap, but if you've had trouble with certain kinds of vegetables packing them, it sounds like they're going into bags and not wax boxes. I'm thinking about heirloom tomatoes, so I'm just curious if you've developed any best practices around particularly difficult to pack veggies.
Well, I'm going to chime in here. We like to have the things like tomatoes or berries, which would come in a traditional pint, and most of our farmers don't have a lid for those pints. They do put that in a paper bag as well. So the pint, paper bag, label on the outside of the paper bag, and then KitsapFresh does utilize wax boxes, 2 sizes. We also have 3 sizes of paper bags. Just depends on the order.
Right. We have a similar system, I would say, but along those lines, we kind of made the brown paper bag part of our marketing, really. I think that, hello there, sweetheart. She can tell you about it. So everything that didn't need to go into plastic, we just put it into paper bags. And then when it goes to the aggregation site, it goes into the wax boxes. But yeah, there does have to be some care in handling those more, sensitive vegetables. But everyone along the line kind of knows that. So, but we think that part of the reason why our sales were going up so quickly was because we were kind of being that brown bag farm, and you could recognize it. So.
My question, this is Laura Raymond. I work with the WSDA Regional Markets Program. My question follows on that. I'm wondering if you see many farms taking advantage of the identity of their farm following through to the end customer and marketing in some way through their packaging or whatever product ends up finally with the customers.
Yeah, the better farmers do work hard at branding their product and put their sticker on their bag. So that's a choice people could make. And I'd like to add that if you do become a member owner of KitsapFresh, you automatically get marketing. We have a marketer. It was me before, someone else, and your product. You give me a product blurb. We're going to put it on our Facebook thing. We'll put it in our newsletter. So you get automatic marketing. We take care of all sorts of other things too. So it's definitely a place to brand yourself. Absolutely.
Hi there. My name is Becca Roy, and I am what you all call a consumer. So I'm eating this fresh, delicious food. And I also just completely nerd out to all things data, especially as related to helping our world become what it needs to be, which is sustainable and healthy, and the ground and plants and us too. So I'm kind of salivating at what I'm hearing is you have a huge amount of data, and Amy, sorry. Okay. Amy, you specifically have national data, and I'm just curious if either for VashonFresh or Kitsap, especially with the region, or Amy, if you all are looking at where people are really purchasing food, what types of food they're purchasing, and then figuring out how to educate folks on what they're not purchasing and figure out ways for them to incorporate that. Like, As a consumer, thanks to my CSA, I know what to do with kohlrabi. I never would have looked at that at a grocery store. And now I know I can eat it like an apple or put it in soups, and I love to use that as an alternative. I would never have done that on my own. It came to me, and there was a recipe with my CSA about how to incorporate that. So boom, connection made, just basic education. But then I'm also thinking about the capacity to use these tools to help identify like where to grow your market and how to kind of reach and expand out. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
That was a lot of questions. So I think just to unpack it a little bit, I heard tinges of big data, which makes me like, we're really serious about our customers' data as our customers' data and not ours. We use it to like measure are we helping people grow? Are they growing? Are there are there things that we need to help people with? But we don't sell our customers' data or use it in ways that I find other big data companies really frustrating. So just wanted to put that out there. It's just kind of one of our core values. But I think you bring up some really good points about just what market opportunities are there. And we tend to look at those things on a pretty ad hoc basis. And a lot of our customers do ask us questions like, how should we price things? Or, what markets do you see other people having success with given the landscape that we have? And, we don't necessarily like go in for big consulting gigs, but we often, have pretty informal communication with our customers about like, here are things. We connect our customers with each other often. It's like, oh, you're kind of doing things, you're operating at a similar scale, you guys maybe want to talk. That said, like we leave a lot of those other things to the consultants that do consulting work. We've tried to stay in our lane of what we do well. But certainly we do have a lot of data, it's true. We haven't made any major efforts to like utilize that to do consumer education at this point, so. Yeah.
I use their quantity listed versus quantity sold report all the time. It shows how much product was listed, of what types, and how much of it sold. So you can see what you have too much of and what you need more of. And we always need more eggs. Can't have enough chicken eggs.
Yeah, but I think in your questions, there's a central issue that I've been thoughtful about for a couple of years, and that is, to what extent is VashonFresh or KitsapFresh a neutral place where people get to list what they want, consumers get to buy what they want, and to what extent do you use it to inform and direct future operations? Where can you identify future markets better? Can you help growers grow a different set of things that would yield better results? And I think that is an interesting, to me, issue.
Marissa, again, from Sustainable Connections in Bellingham. I'm curious for both Vashon and Kitsap, how many vendors you have on the platform, and maybe secondary, how many of them are using it consistently? And then I also would like to ask Amy, I'm just going to hope it's okay to just ask this question about the fees, your licensing fee and operation fees for the platform.
Yeah. Yeah, do you guys want to go first?
Vendors of VashonFresh, about 35.
Farmers or vendors? Food producers, 45 Kitsap food producers, 2 who aren't from Kitsap, Golden Glen Creamery up in Bow, Mount Vernon, and a beef outfit from Chimicum. And then we have quite a few of these value-added products we're buying in another 40 or so. So around 80 or 90 total vendors if you include the people who are buying value-added products from. Fees.
Yeah. So we offer, Hi. We offer a couple of different packages, and we have packages for farms and we have packages for food hubs. And we have a setup fee, and then we have monthly subscription fees that vary depending on the needs of the entity. But the setup fee is between $4.99 and $9.99. And then the monthly subscription fees are $79 for kind of a startup entity to, gosh, what's our average is probably about $200 or so for an established food hub. So that's sort of a range, but we have different add-on modules and stuff like that people can add depending on what kinds of things they need to do. If they have subscriptions, for instance, as an add-on module, we charge flat fees, so we're not charging a percentage of sale. We think those dollars should be in the pockets of farms and everybody who's making the food move around. So
That was one of our original deciding factors, was there was no percentage flat fee.
Yeah.
Amy, one more data question. You said you have 5,000 producers. Any guesstimate of the number of buyers?
Oh, that would be easy information to get, but I honestly have not looked at that.
I'm gonna guess
There's
it's-
probably there's a lot of buyer accounts, right? Like they were mentioning, they have 3,000 buyer accounts.
But only about 200.
So, yeah, it's information I could certainly get, but I don't know
It's
it
a significant number.
It is, yeah. The system processes thousands of orders a week, so, yeah, probably.
So you notice you have a pink slip in front of you, and that's for you to fill out for evaluations for this session.
Is that what you were going to say?
And I want to thank all of you for attending this and for the panelists to spending their time doing this. It's really been fun for me.
It's an honor, thanks.